Hi, my name is Maria Bonfiglio, and this Biostatistics 2210 presentation was created by myself, Miranda Westrick, Chinenye Bosa, William Perry, and Alex Torres. Our study's topic centered around the reach of student health services, including the demographics and specific services utilized by Ohio State students. In a previous study by Fletcher et al., health issues and service utilization of university students were examined. The study found institutions of higher education provide an ideal setting for the provision of health information and education and interventions to assist students in coping with issues that may compromise their well-being. At Ohio State University, student health services are available through the Wills Student Health Center, an outpatient facility. All enrolled students at Ohio State, roughly 60,000 on main campus, are eligible to use Wills services regardless of insurance. Some services offered include vaccinations, acute illness treatment, STI testing and treatment, dental care, pharmacy services, mental health services, allergy therapy, and general checkups. While Fletcher et al. Found that students are aware of available on-campus services that would help them manage their health issues, awareness does not translate into use of services. In order to gain a better understanding of the student health service reach throughout Ohio State students, we prepared 6 research questions for our survey of Ohio State students. First, we wanted to ask if there was an association between the type of health service utilized and gender. We asked the questions, what is your current gender identity, as well as what type of health services do you utilize? Check all that apply, with answers including the health services specified on the previous slide and an option to fill in other service. Second, we asked if there is an association between the number of times a student utilizes health service and the season of the year, including fall, winter, spring, and summer. We asked the questions, when are you most likely to use Ohio State student health services, as well as how often do you utilize the Ohio State University health services? Thirdly, we questioned if the type of health service utilized is associated with the season of the year. We asked participants, when are you most likely to use Ohio State student health services, as well as what type of health services do you utilize, and told participants again to check all that apply. Fourthly, we asked, does a student's distance of commute relate to their usage of health services? We used the questions, how often do you utilize the Ohio State University health services, and how long is your commute to Ohio State's campus? To answer this question, we gave the participants the option of living on campus, 1 to 10 miles away, 11 to 12 miles away, 21 to 30 miles away, or more than 30 miles away. Fifthly, we questioned if a student's health insurance coverage is associated with their use of health services. To do so, we asked 2 questions. How do you receive health insurance benefits? With the answers through parent or guardian's insurance, university health insurance, government health insurance, I'm uninsured, and the option to fill in other. And the question, how often do you utilize the Ohio State University health services? Lastly, we asked if the residency of the student is related to the use of health services. Our question for participants were, how often do you utilize the Ohio State University health services, as well as what is your student residency, with the options in-state, out-of-state, or international.
My name is Miranda Westrick, and I'm going to be presenting the methods section of our survey project. So in terms of study design, our study was cross-sectional in nature. Data was collected at a single time point, and we used a convenience sample of Ohio State undergraduate students. In terms of generalizability, our study is generalizable to all undergraduate students who attend the Ohio State University's Columbus campus. For recruitment, we sent mass emails containing the survey link to classmates and friends. We also posted our survey in Ohio State Facebook groups. In terms of data collection, we collected data for 1 week, and we collected it through an online survey using the survey platform Qualtrics. Our survey was 11 questions long, with some of those questions pertaining to demographics and other questions pertaining to students' utilization of health services at Ohio State. We received 113 responses to our survey. All right, now we're going to move on to the statistical analysis section of the methods. So all of the analysis were carried out using the R programming language. We performed Fisher's exact test to determine the associations between categorical variables, and all of these tests were conducted with a significance level of alpha equals 0.05. And we only used Fisher's exact test, and the reason being all of our variables were categorical, and this led us to either Fisher's exact test or chi-square test. And for the chi-square test, we were not able to use it because many of our observations were too small when compared to their expected value.
Hello, my name is Chinenya Bosa, and I will be discussing some of the results section with you. For research question 1, asking, is the type of health service utilized associated with gender? Both variables, gender and type of health service, were categorical variables. We ran 9 separate Fisher's exact tests looking at each type of health service's association with gender. For all tests, in this sample, we found no significant difference between type of health service used and gender, with the p-value being greater than 0.05 for all 9 tests. Here is a contingency table cross-tabulating type of health service utilized in gender. We did not total gender count because for the survey question inquiring about health service utilized, people could answer all that applied. Therefore, one person who identified as a female could have selected multiple health services. By not totaling a gender count, we are avoiding double counting.
Hello, my name is William Perry, and I'll be covering our results for research questions 2, 3, and 6. So starting with 2, we were looking at the number of times a student utilized the health service related to the season of the year. So for this one, we used the Fisher's exact test, and we're trying to see, and we went in assuming that there's no association, trying to prove that there was. We wanted to look at this because we're assuming that there might be an association due to flu season or what have you, and we put in, we ran the test and we found that there was a p-value of 0.758, which is quite large. This shows that the probability that we saw a sample as extreme or like our sample from a population where there is no association. That's the probability of it, and it's quite high. So we don't really have any compelling evidence saying that there is no association. So moving on to our sample statistics. So, looking at our sample statistics, with the exception of spring and summer, all of them had a proportion of about 0.83 to 0.88, showing that they're very, very similar. So, year round, there was a usual expected rate of across the board. So there wasn't really any compelling evidence that there was an association. Hi again, Will Perry here, and we're going to talk about question 3. So we're trying to look at this to see if the type of health service perhaps changed with the season of the year. So we were thinking about, with the same line of reasoning earlier, that maybe flu season had an effect on, when people use the services. And so we ran 9 tests, one for each of our health services, treating them as binary categories. They either used it or didn't use it, and we were trying to prove that there was a correlation. All of our p-values returned greater than a significance level, so therefore we couldn't find any compelling evidence that there wasn't no association. So moving on to question 3's sample statistics, we couldn't fit a large enough table for all of our test statistics on our results site. So basically, we're looking at bar charts for both. We were surprised to see that despite there being no association, we saw lots of acute illness and lots of vaccinations in our health service bar chart. So we need further tests to see why there was no association between season and everything, because we were expecting stuff with flu season and all of that.
In terms of research question 4, asking, does a student's distance of commute relate to usage of health services? Both commuting distance and frequency of the health services were categorical variables. There was a significant association between how close someone lives to campus and utilization of health services, with a p-value equaling 0.04246. Since this is less than 0.05, could tell that there was a significant association, and those living 0 miles from campus using health services the most overall. Here we have a contingency table and bar graph to help see the data better. As you can see in the contingency table, of those who use health services, we can see how many people used each frequency, either 1 to 4 times a school year, or 5 or more times a school year. And then look at how many of those people lived a certain distance away from campus. In the bar graph, you can easily tell that those who lived 0 miles from campus used student health services the most overall. For research question 5, asking, is a student's health insurance coverage associated with the use of health services? Both variables, type of insurance coverage student has and frequency of times health services were utilized, were categorical. We found that there was a significant difference in students' health insurance coverage and utilization of health services, with the p-value equaling 0.03759, and those who are insured under their parent or guardian using health services more. Here is a contingency table and bar graph to help see the data better for research question 5. As you can see on the contingency table, 48 out of 57, or 84%, which is the majority, of those who utilize health services used their parent or guardian insurance. This can also be seen easily on the bar graph.
Hi again, this is Will Perry, and we're going to talk about our last research question, question 6. So, we're looking at whether the residency of the student affected their use of their health services. So, we want to ask this question because we were thinking that perhaps there might be something to do with, out-of-state or international students being far with their primary care providers. So therefore, they may not go to our health services as much. So to do this, we looked at our 2 categorical variables using a Fisher's test. When assuming that there was no association, trying to prove that there was one, and we got a whopping p-value of approximately 1. This shows that there's not a lot of evidence supporting the fact that there is an association. So therefore, we've had to fail to reject the null hypothesis and assume we can't really prove that there isn't no association. So to wrap up our results with the sample statistics for question 6. So of those who used it, we looked at who were out of state and who were in state and how many times they used it per school year. So for both of them, about 0.8 of each category, used it 1 to 4 times a school year. This probably is the reasoning behind our p-value, that there were very, very similar proportions. So therefore, there isn't really compelling evidence to say that there is no difference in the population. So those are our results. Now we're going to move on to our conclusions, say what we learned about our samples and everything, and we'll take it from there. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Alex Torres, and in conclusion, future projects should have a larger sample size in order to increase the power of tests that are conducted, include survey questions that allow for more continuous or discrete answers, and include research questions that allow for multiple kinds of tests to be used. To analyze the data, the statistical software R was used, and the test used was Fisher's exact test. A cross-sectional study design was utilized to describe the info, and in regard to our research questions, our first question, which was, is the type of health service utilized associated with gender, was found to be not significant, with Fisher's exact test being greater than 0.05 for a p-value, which indicates no association was found. For our second research question, is the number of times a student utilizes a health service related to the season of the year, being fall, winter, autumn, or spring, was found to be not significant with a p-value of 0.758, which is much larger than the cut point of 0.05 that's standard to be used. For our third research question, which was, is the type of health service utilized associated with the season of the year, using Fisher's exact test, there's no significant difference that was detected between service utilization and the season, with a p-value that was greater than 0.05. For our fourth research question, which was, does a student's distance of commute relate to usage of health services, the p-value for this test was 0.04246, which is less than the standard cut point of 0.05 of significance, which indicates there's a significant relationship between the distance of a student and the usage of health services. For our fifth research question, which was, is a student's health insurance coverage associated with the use of health services, the p-value for this test was 0.03759, which is also lower than the standard cut point of 0.05, which indicates that there is a significant relationship between a student's health insurance coverage and whether or not they use the health services of the university. Majority of the students use their parents' or guardians' health insurance and also use health services the most, which indicate that for research questions 4 and 5, we reject the null hypothesis. For our last research question, which was, does the residency of the student, meaning in-state, out-of-state, international, relate to the use of health services? The residency of students and their usage of health services had no significant relationship, with a p-value that was well over 0.05. It was much closer to 1, which is much, much larger than the standard cut point of 0.05, indicating no significant relationship between the two variables.